of division winner. It's different from strength of division average and strength of division margin. Now, what this is, and I've tried to define all of my statistics so that when I actually do present this to the NFL, I have a clear case and I do have true evidence that I can stack and show them why these statistics should be implemented. Now, this stat, like all the other stats, is an attempt at placing a single value on the quality of wins a division winner has in comparison with the rest of their division. Alright? So it's comparing the division leader during the season and ultimately the team that wins the division. No matter what division this is that you're looking at, it can be applied across all 8 divisions separately. So if you were looking at the AFC South and it's a close race between, let's say, the Jaguars and the Texans, I don't think that's going to happen, at least next season. But in theory, if it's the Jaguars-Texans, you can use this to compare the wins throughout the season, and whenever you get this end of the season, right before the postseason kind of result, you can look at the strength of the wins after you gauge this formula, and it's going to come out as a single value. Alright? So another thing that I wanted to point out to you guys, and I've got it in my notes right here, as long as I can find them. So the range of this set has changed multiple times. I originally had it as a range of 4 to a range of 26.352. Now, that seems a little bit arbitrary. Let me explain how I got there. I got there by multiplying the added summary of the highest possible winning percentage of 3.294 if you combined all 4 teams and then multiplied it by 8, the division constant, right? Because there's 8 NFL divisions. And then I divided that by the winner of a division. So if, in theory, a single division could have these 4 teams go 17-0, 15-2, 13-4, 11-6. That is the highest possible winning percentage. Well, how is it the highest possible? In theory, every single team in one particular division, and it would create a massive lopside in another division where the other division is very poor, horrible schedule, horrible win total, win percentage. But you would get this scenario where every single team in the winningest division possible defeats every single non-conference and non-division opponent. And that happens across the board for all 4 teams. That would mean that all 4 teams in that division would have to go a combined 44-0 against teams outside of their division and outside of their conference in order for this scenario to happen. The lowest team, the 11-6 team, we're going to assume that they get swept by every team ahead of them in their division. And so that's how they end up with 11-6. They lose every divisional game, but beat the rest of their schedule. 13-4 is in the same boat. They beat everyone outside of their division and conference, and they sweep the 11-6 team. And again, you're probably wondering, well, couldn't there be 2 12-5 teams? Yes, there could be 2 12-5 teams where they split head-to-head against each other. There can also be a scenario at the top where instead of being 15-2, where we assume that the 15-2 team sweeps the 2 teams beneath them in the standings, and the 17-0 team just sweeps everybody, right? Because if they're 17-0, they don't lose to a single team. Or you could have a 16-1 tie for the head of the division. And so you end up with this 3.294 winning percentage. And that's how you get the highest possible winning percentage for a division. And so the reason why this is important is because I was utilizing this to set up the initial range. But as I've gone through this again, and as I've looked at different types of formulas, different ways to set the parameters, I have ultimately decided that this formula needs to change, because you don't actually make sense of anything by multiplying it by the division constant and then just dividing it if you're not actually incorporating, what is it that would we incorporate? The strength of schedule. So, strength of schedule, and I know it's getting a bit tedious, may sound a bit monotonous, but the strength of schedule fluctuates from a range of 0 to 1. 0 to 1. And so we're going to break this down. If the strength of schedule is a value that fluctuates from 0 to 1, and it measures the total amount of wins from the previous season for each team in a schedule for a particular team. So, if you're looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a 17-game schedule. Their strength of schedule is determined by taking the individual winning percentages of every team that they are expected to play and then adding them up. And then you do that for every single team in the league, right? NFL statistic makers do this for every team in the league before the season starts. And you end up with the highest team, the number one team, in terms of all 32, having to face a team that has, or having a schedule of, let's say, .532, I think was the highest this year by the Cleveland Browns. Then you get the lowest possible team, and it's a team that's facing a combined winning percentage of, we'll say, .300. So that's the range of values. But realistically, it can be anywhere from 0 to 1, right? 1 being 100%, which is, it would be difficult, but in theory, it can happen. Now, that is important because I've changed the formula just ever so slightly. Actually, I need to write this down, guys. Give me just a moment.